So hello and welcome. When I advertised this, I said that I would bring donuts. So here you go. Have a donut, help yourself. I know they're not the healthiest, but the ones donuts on Zoom have no calories, no fat. They're all very healthy. And in fact, I think I'll have one here. Oh, I like the chocolate ones. Those are my favorites. If you ever want to woo me with something chocolate, it would be one of the things you could do. So what we're really here for, besides donuts, virtual donuts, is our budget. So this is, I want to start, wait, before you see all that, I want to start with our expenses. Because what we are thinking about is we would like to live our dream. We on the budget and between some inputs and we on the budget, we on the board and finance council and other groups and committees and feedback loops and those, we did those town hall meetings earlier in the year. We would like to live our high hopes. In fact, David and I were singing high hopes earlier, and we might start a new band with just that rubber tree plant in apple pie in the sky, high hopes. So
it was the prelude.
Right. It was the prelude. So one of the things we're doing and that we decided on last year, halfway through the year, is that we would bring all of our staff to equal benefit packages. So everybody gets the same level of benefits. And it hadn't been that way before. It was a UUA recommendation that benefit packages kind of were tiered based on a staff position. And we thought that we would prefer, regardless of your position, that equity is most important. So we did a little half-year fundraiser to fill a gap so that we could bring that equity to our staff halfway through the year. So it started like January, February. And so going forward, that is going to be our new norm, that we do this. So that's one of the increases. Another aspiration is we have resumed our music director to 50% time like we had before. We had reduced it during the pandemic. We're still in that phase because we hadn't, our music people hadn't needed as much time and space, and there wasn't choir. So we've got that back. And then we also, and that doesn't mean that we're gonna start July 1st that the music director is gonna be 50%. We still need to get that position in order, and we will still follow our pandemic guidelines as we get in our connect about whether or not or when we have services, not whether or not when we have them in person or a hybrid. The next increase is the family and ministry, director of family ministry. This has been discussed for a while, and it is coming I think to fruition. We'd like to increase this position from 50% to 80% based on the needs of our congregation. So that's another aspiration to help build our program and our needs. So this director of family ministries, you notice, is not called a DRE, director of religious education, because family ministry is family, and that means all of us. We are all families. We me and my husband are family, and people with children are families, people who live alone are families. It's we're all families, and it tends to all of us. This position does. The nursery caretaker position will also resume once we get to into the church again, into the building once again. We would like to upkeep our building. We need to keep adding to our building reserve. We have 14,000 in it right now. That is not enough. The guidelines are generally that you should have 1 to 1.5% of your total assets in reserve for your building assets. So we've got about a $4 million building. We need to have about $40,000 in there. We're going to even deplete some of this because we had additional maintenance or repair costs this year above our current budget, operating budget. So even 4,000 is actually less than I would like to give. It's not as aspirational as I'd like it to be, but you know, it's a start. If we keep doing this, we will build this up. The denominational fair share. So this is what we pay to the UUA. We had been paying it about 50%, and we were trying to increase it slowly by adding a few, like pay 55% next year. The reason that this is so important is this is like paying our fair share, as it's called, a fair share of participating in a larger community. We get services from them. We get a lot of support. I know that many people on our board, including our co-presidents and myself, have tapped into their resources for webinars on how to be leaders, especially during the pandemic. We needed help. I've tapped into some things about budgeting and what we can do, and I know a bunch of us have attended the attended the pledge drive or stewardship trainings, which was super helpful. It's kind of where we get the idea for these fun videos that we're doing this year, which I think I really like. So we need to, you know, we need to participate in them, in UUA being a full, robust community, for not only because it's the right thing to do, but also to have access to these programs that we need and use, and advice and wisdom. And then the rest of the expenses are based on our very knowledgeable congregational administrator, Kathy Stinnett. She views the trends on how certain expenses are doing, like, for example, utilities. How's that going? And she makes her adjustments based on what it is she thinks is happening. You can see it went down a little bit. I think there was some cost savings in one of the utilities. I don't remember what it was, but she does, and that's why we rely on her wisdom. The other parts where we see our social justice groups and our committees, we give them what it is they ask for. They submit budget requests every year, and we put in the budget request as is. I'd like to note that I'm leaving sabbatical on here. We need to start collecting for a sabbatical. We don't have one in mind yet when Bruce is going to take one, but we're going to need to provide that income to help when he's gone. We need extra resources, worship people, and maybe we have some services we pay for, and maybe an increase in some other staff time to help fill the time. But I just want to let you know that it's there. So those are the expenses. These are our aspirations. So what we're doing is here's our revenue now, our income. We are pushing our income to match our aspirations. So some of these things don't change. Nursery school rent, that's going to be the same. Open plate is decreased dramatically. That's the unidentified giving, so we pass 2 plates in the service. One is the woven basket, and that's for a community organization of our choice. And then the wooden plate, and this goes to our operation. A lot of times people just throw in some cash, and that's just unidentified giving. So we don't have that going on, which is why it's a completely different budget amount. Instead, people are using the Simply Give. David, I think I see you.
I think you're going to say what I was going to say.
Okay. So instead, what's going on is people are using the Simply Give button on our website, which is awesome, and I hope that continues. But that makes you identifiable. You have to put in your name. So it leaves that bucket and goes into miscellaneous income. see how this went up. So it's still pretty much the same. Special events, we want to reduce how much we rely on that for actual operations. That should be for special things, either fundraisers or something else. We like having them, but we shouldn't rely on them. So we keep those kind of modest. And so then that leaves our pledge, our pledges, which, we're in our pledge drive. So this is, as you can see, a lot more than we have budgeted in the past. I think, I don't want this to frighten anybody or upset them. I think what is going on is we are very generous and when we have aspirations. So we did a couple of extra fundraisers this year. One was Seeds for the Future. Wait, Seeds of Change. Seeds of Change. Okay, Seeds for the Future. One of those two. I was looking at David, shaking his head. Yes, no. A lot of Seeds for the Future. More than $20,000 was raised for that. But it was very specific. And so I think it means to me that we actually have capacity to give when we are excited. And so I hope you're excited about this budget. As you can see, it's mostly staff and people and what they contribute to our congregation and what we want as a community and what we want to support and encourage and engage in, which is increase in staff and programming. So I think we do have this capability. So I want you to just think about that when you make your pledge contributions, when you fill out, we all got our thing in the mail, pledge drive. So I'd like you all to fill this out or go online and fill it out. And think about what your aspirations are for our community when you do that. So, are there questions? And or did Therese show up? Oh, Therese is here. She was going to do a little pitch, but maybe we should do some questions first. Any questions? I can't always see everybody, so if you're trying to raise your hand, you might have to just unmute yourself.
It looks like Allison might be ready to say a little something.
Go ahead, Allison.
I had two questions, so I'll just give you the two questions and then I'll mute back up. My first question related to the UUA fair share, and I was just wondering what is the current per member rate for the UUA fair share? And my second question was, how many pledging units do we currently have?
Oh, excellent questions, Allison. Number of pledging units. I don't know any of that information. Useless, but I don't know if Kathy Stinnett is on, but Allison, I am so willing to look it up and then we can share it.
It looks like Therese Presley, our campaign pledge chair, knows the answer.
Therese, please.
Don't take me to court on this, but there have been talk that we have 220 pledging units. I know for a fact we sent out 200 pledge forms. The number is a little fluid because like Tom Betts and I are lumped into one pledging unit, but we both give separately. Does that make sense? So there's a little fluidity in those numbers.
But I guess I thought it was around 200 something as well, Therese. Thank you.
Right, but did you see a chat now? Rev Bruce has just put something in the chat. Go ahead.
I saw that Jan McGree has a question in the chat.
Okay.
Is it possible to give us an update on pledges received? The last time I spoke to Kathy Stinnett, there had been 25 returned pledge forms from the 200 that we had sent out. And that's just paper. but you need to submit a piece of paper written down with your signature. Kathy cannot take a pledge over the phone. It's just, she just doesn't feel comfortable doing that. You know, it's not secure enough. It's not concrete enough. Annual program fund to the UUA is no longer based on membership numbers, but on percentage of annual budget. That's from UU. Does everybody see that in the chat? That's from Rev Bruce.
Yes. Oh, good. Thank you, Reverend Bruce. That's right. I remember they redid the fair share in it. So it's based on a more equitable system. So for example, I believe communities in more disadvantaged areas or cities or states get a kind of a reduction, and that other communities that are doing better and based on their budget pay more, which as it should be. So I had already calculated a per member rate, but we're going to delete that because it no longer is true.
My dream would be, you know, when you look at the pledge forms this year, everybody was given the amount that they give, and some people, you know, pledge $20. Some people pledge $50, and my dream would be if those people that could this year, you know, designate one of their stimulus checks to UUCD. I mean, that would stimulate the economy. If we sent in our fair share tax to the UUA or gave better and equity. To me, growing together is our theme this year. And that's growing together, you know, growing equity in our own community here for our staff, and growing equity with the UUA. I do want to tell you, you know, we're trying to make it as easy as possible also with that simple give button and the paper form. Gail, one of our stewardship team members, was there at church yesterday, sat there from 10 to 12. I mean, we're doing everything we can, having the open church hours Monday through Friday, and then having volunteers there Saturdays 10 to 12 for your convenience to pick up a pledge promo, which are outstanding this year. If I do say, brag for my volunteers who donated plants and cookies and preserves and art. So.
Other questions? Somehow I lost my chat.
Oh,
I'm going to.
There's nothing new in there.
Okay, thank you, Therese. So, does anybody else have questions or comments? I see Gail raised his hand. Go ahead, Gail. I think you have to unmute.
Gail, you're muted.
He's looking for it.
Okay.
Can the host, Kathy, can the host unmute somebody?
There,
Oh, there he goes.
if I may be off a little bit, but it seems like last year, our aspiration were 100% participation, and we got about 70, maybe 75% at most. And that gave us the 209,000. If everybody, 70% of that group all increases by 10%, we will still only be at about 225,000, which leaves us a long ways from our aspirational income. Will we then just have to go back and reduce things?
Yeah, we that would be the end result if we don't meet our aspirational budget here.
I think Giger had unmuted. Maybe Giger's next, and then we got people raising their hands too.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah. I went into the system and we have, for the current operating year, which ends June of this year, we had 119 pledgers, many of whom are a household of 2. Others are a household of 2 people, but they pledge separately. They go as 2 separate pledges. The reverse of what Therese described for her and Tom. In any case, 119 pledges totaling $199,427. So we were 10,000 short of what you see on that budget for actual pledges that were made. And right now, I think about 87% have been collected. Is that helpful?
Thank you, Giger.
I believe that Cherie Bridges is next.
Hi, one of the comments that Alisa made at the beginning is that we need to get excited about our congregation and our role in the community and in the world. And I think this past year has given us a reason to really reflect on how much our congregation means to us when we haven't been able to be together, haven't been able to use our building to any extent, and so on. So we're really hoping that people take this to heart and give, so that we can really be a voice of social justice in the community. Give a little more than they normally might have. Really think about, what does the congregation mean to them?